to the YA Make and Take Paracord Bracelets. Today we are going to learn how to make two different kinds of paracord bracelets that both look like this. The first method we're going to learn how to do is the fishtail method. It's very similar to the fishtail braid. And the second version is the double knot version of paracord bracelets. So I am going to get you set up and we'll get started. See you in a bit. Okay, so in your kit you're going to get a length of rope and a buckle. Looks like this. And to start your first bracelet, we are first going to have to measure the circumference of your wrist. So you can either do that if you happen to have a measuring tape that is used in sewing, the kind that's really flexible. You can use that to measure your wrist, or an easier method, not an easier method, but a different method is to take a bit of rope and wrap it around your wrist. So you want to be a little bit loose, not too loose, but not too tight, and put the ends together. And then you're going to pinch the rope where that end is, and you will use a ruler to measure how long your string is. For my bracelets, I'm going to need to make them 7.5 inches long. And to figure out how much rope I need to do that, it's pretty easy math equation. I will put it in the description box when this video goes up. It will be 2 times the length of the bracelet. So in my case, 2 times 7.5, which is 15 inches. And then an extra foot for every inch of the bracelet. So in my case, that will be about 7.5 feet. I'm gonna up it to 8 just because it's better to have more rope than less rope. And then, so total I will need about 9 feet. We're gonna do probably 8.5 feet of rope. You can measure your own risk and then figure out how much rope you need for that yourself. Okay, so I have measured out how much rope I need, and we are going to then put this rope on our buckle. So to do that, we are first going to fold our rope in half. One end will be looped like this. Where's the camera? There we go. One end will be looped like this, and the other end will be the edges. Mine are a little bit frayed, so I'm going to trim them off before I start. Okay, so we're going to put them on our buckle. This is a pretty easy method. We're going to start with the buckle put together still. It doesn't matter which side you attach to first. You're just going to want to make sure that the little wings on the side are facing upwards. And we will start by putting our 2 strings through one side of our buckle and pulling it all the way through until we get to our loop. You want to make sure that all of your string or your rope is nice and untwisted and straight, because that'll make your job a little bit easier later. If it's all twisty, it's hard to get everything to work the way you want it to. If you happen to be using the 2-strand method, you want to be a little bit gentle about having a join here, just to make sure you don't accidentally stress it too much, and then it'll break apart and you'll have to start the whole process over again. So we're going to tuck both ends of our rope through our loop and then pull fairly taut. Again, if you have a glue point here, you want to be a little bit gentler. It might be a good idea to add a little bit of extra glue or a little bit more heat to this area to make sure there's a good bond. So to add our second half of our buckle, we're going to unbuckle it. We're going to take our ends again and we're going to put them through the top this time, so then when we pull it down, it will be on the same side. So then when we start our knot, our tying, it'll look like that. So that is what it's going to look like. And then you want to make sure that you have enough length of these two center ones to be enough to put around your wrist. You want it to be fairly loose, not too tight. Definitely not too tight. Looser is better because you're going to be adding a little bit of bulk when you actually do the knots, and you don't want this to end up being too tight and have to start over again. So here is what it looks like, and then we will get on to making our first bracelet. Okay, so now that I have my rope attached to my buckles, I'm going to show you the first method of tying your paracord bracelet. The first method we're going to do is the fishtail knot method. If you are familiar with hair braiding, it looks very similar to the fishtail braid or a mermaid braid. The only difference between that braiding and this will be that we won't be separating out the ropes and into sections. So we're going to start with our two middle and our left side, or our right side and our left side tails, which is the side that has the braid edges on it. Okay, so we're going to start by holding my buckle and my rope together so that the middle part doesn't slip. Because if it moves around, then the bracelet might end up being too big or too small for you, and then you'll have to start over again. You don't want to do that. So make sure you're holding both of these nice and tight between your finger and your thumb. And because I'm right-handed, I'm holding with my right hand, so I'm going to start with my left. But you can start on whatever side is more comfortable for you. So I'm going to start by taking my end, and I'm going to put it over the middle right side or left side, so over the left, and under both right side ropes. We're going to pull it very tight, like tighter than you think it needs to be tight. Make sure you're not making this length any longer or shorter, but as tight while holding onto it as you can make it. So now we are going to put the left side one that we just used over to the side on the right, and we're going to take our right side strand and do the same thing but opposite. So I'm going to go over the right hand and under the left hand. You don't have to go under any other extra rope because there's only the one over there. And this rope will get a little bit twisty. It tends to want to curl up. We're going to pull it nice and tight. This one is really easy to do, but it requires a lot of making sure everything is very tight so it keeps its form and has that nice fishtail look to it. So I'm taking that same strand I just used, and I'm going to put it over and under again, and then pull it tight. Again, this is where you need to really pull to make sure that it's nice and flush with that first knot. And then I'm going to let that strand that I just used sit to the side, and I'm going to pick up the unused side and do the over-under thing again. I'm again making sure to hold what I've already done tight so it doesn't go anywhere now that I've pulled it really tight. And I'm going to pull this nice and tight too. So it's got that nice fold over pattern thing. Okay, so I'm going to take that and do the same thing, and we're just going to keep doing this until the bracelet is done. So I went over the left side and under both strands of the right side, and then I'm going to leave that tail that I just used to sit and use the other side, the other tail, to go over and under. Oops. Using the scissors. Hopefully not any of that either. Okay, I'm going to pull this nice and tight. And okay, and now you can start seeing the pattern that's going to show. And I'm just going to go over and under again under both of the strands, and then leave that rope to the side once I hold it nice and tight. And like you can see, it has a nice kind of folded over each other look to it. It's very simple, and if you do a two-stranded, it looks really cool. So I'm leaving that strand I just used to the side, picking up the strand I haven't used for a little bit, and pulling. Okay. Pulling it over, tagging it up so it looks nice and tight and flush, and then going over once more, over and under. Okay, and I'm just going to do the same thing all the way until I get to the end, and then I'll show you how to tie it off. The rest of this I'm going to do off screen, so see you in a bit. Okay. Okay, so we are back. Now I'm almost done, and I'm going to show you how to finish tying all your knots and finish your bracelet off. So we're going to, it's going to get a little bit tight down here because you have such little room to work with, but that's good because it'll be easier to tie off once you're all done. As you can see, the bracelet is all nice and flush, and you can barely see the middle cord between each of those knots. Will warn you a little bit, your hands might start to hurt a little bit from all the tugging, but that's okay. Just give them a nice stretch when you're done, or take breaks. So we're gonna keep threading this in like that. Tug it nice and tight. We only have like 3 more knots. And if you end up with a bunch more cord than your bracelet needs, that's okay. We're going to trim it off with some scissors and hot glue or melt the ends so they stay in place. But it's better to have more cord than you need than not enough. And also, I am an adult, which is why I have a hot glue gun right next to my hand. Please do that with adult supervision and keep the hot glue gun out of your own space so you don't accidentally burn yourself. Otherwise, you end up with not fun burns. And Miss Mallory can attest to that because she is clumsy. And that scar right there is a hot glue gun scar, so you don't want those. Okay. So because I have not that much left, I'm going to try to tuck this in and pull it through. It's getting a little rough there. That, again, is good. So I'm going to try to push that in with the nails until we get to the other side. I think we're only going to be able to do this one more time. All right, hopefully, I'm going to push these a little bit longer. Get that last. One in there, and then we're gonna do one more on the other side. Whoops. Helps to twist it a little bit between your fingers to make it a little bit more pointed. If you have long nails like I do, well, longish nails like I do, you can pull it with your nails Otherwise, you can maybe use tweezers to get it nice and tight. Okay, so now this is going to look really good. As you can see, it's pretty secure. It's making a good bracelet. It's going to work really well on my wrist. All right, so now we have our little ends. So what we're going to do is you're going to, you could either tie them off and fray them right here and fray them together, or we're going to use the hot glue gun to put them together. So I'm going to cut as close as I can without having them fall out. Hopefully they won't because they're nice and tight in there. Now I'm going to take my hot glue gun, and again with adult supervision we're going to just use the ends to glue this down nice and well. Okay. I'm going to wait for it to cool a minute. We're gently touching it. Don't touch it. If it feels too hot, don't touch it. But usually hot glue, unless you're using like a super, I'm using a low heat one, but if you're using a really high heat one, be really careful because sometimes that can take a little while to cool down. But once it's cool, you can gum it up with your fingers to make sure everything is and smash it in there so it's nice and tight. And if you think you need to add a little bit more, you're good. Okay, that is our first rope done. And now I can wear it as a bracelet. We're going to connect it like that because Miss Mallory can't do it with one hand. And I have my bracelet done. Okay, we are back with a new color of rope and a new knotting method. So to tie this paracord bracelet, this is the double knot method. If you did my macrame kit or have seen my macrame video, this is a knot that you will be familiar with. It is the double knot that we did for the keychains. So to start off, we're going to take our right side. I'm going to start on the right side. You can start on the left side if it's easier. I'm going to take my string and put it underneath the middle so it creates like a little loop here, and put that off to the side. And then I'm going to take my string that is on the left side. I'm going to make sure the right side one is draped over it, and then I'm going to drape this over here and underneath the top part of this loop. So it ends up making a little pretzel, which hopefully you will be able to see once I unravel this rope. So it looks like a little pretzel, like that. And then we're going to very carefully and slowly, because it's very hard to do this with two hands and not 4 hands. If you have a helper who can hold your buckle for you, that would be awesome. I do not. So we're pulling this as tight as we can get it so it's nice and taut. Okay. And that is our first knot. Now we're going to start on the left side this time. So we're going to do the same motions. We're going to go underneath and make our loop. This rope happens to be a little bit more twisty than the last time. And we're going to put this tail over the right side. And then we're going to take our right side one and put it over the center and over the bottom part of this loop, and then underneath the top part of this loop. So it makes its own pretzel. And we are again going to pull it tight. It should be a little bit easier this time so you don't have to worry about this buckle sliding anywhere. Now that it's secure, I'm going to pull it nice and tight. And then we're going to do the first section again. And, okay, so I take my right side and my rope is sliding all over the place. We're going to put it underneath our middle and over our right side. Now we're going to take our right side tail and we're going to do over the middle, over the bottom part of the loop, and then underneath the top part of that loop. And pull it tight so it looks like this nice little pretzel again. And then it helps if you grab on to the bottom, the bracelet part with your other fingers, so you can get a really good grip on everything and pull it nice and tight. Okay. Now we're just going to do the same thing backwards again. So I'm going to go underneath, over my tail, make my little knot twisty loop. Then I'm going to take my left side and go over, over, under, pull it tight, make my little pretzel, and then pull the whole thing tight again. And I'm just going to go back and forth until I get all the way down. I'll do it one more time so you can see what it looks like again, in case you need that extra bit. We're doing underneath the middle and over the right side, then over the right side and over the top part of the thing and the under the bottom part of the, or the top part of the loop. So it makes our little pretzel pull nice and tight. And you will notice that as you do this back and forth, your little knots kind of go back and forth, back and forth. If you do it all on one direction, then the bracelet's going to twist and it won't lay flat. And if you want, you can do that method, but if you do it that way, you need twice as much rope. So if you wanted to do it only on the left side or only on the right side, it would do a twisty thing, but you would need twice as much rope as you need for just the regular method, the back and forth method. So just so you know, that's an option. Okay, we're going to go under and over, over and under, and pull tight again. Okay, now I am just going to do the same method over and over until we get to about the end, like we did with the last bracelet, and then I will be back to show you how to finish off. Okay, so as you can see, we are now almost finished. All of our knots are nice and even and nothing's twisting, so we should be good to go in maybe 2 more knots. I'm going to make my loops. Okay. This might be the last one. Yep. Okay. So now we have our loops all done. So what we're going to do is flip it over, and we're going to trim off this edge. And like I said before, you can either use a hot glue gun or use some kind of flame, but make sure you are doing it with adult supervision as always. So we're going to use a hot glue gun because that's what we have. And I'm just going to put a bead on there. It's a little bit messy, but that's okay. We'll clean it up once it's cooled down a little bit. I'm going to tuck it in there. No worries, we are not going to have that ugly mess on the top. Put a little bit of cool little touch, just to make sure it's not too hot. We will tuck it in there. Again, we do fast, short touches to make sure we are not burning ourselves. You don't want a scar like Miss Mallory from making a milk jug igloo. Okay, so let's pull the extra off so it looks nice and neat, and that side is complete. It's not going anywhere. We're good. Okay, so now we are going to try to glue that here, just to make it nice and even. So I'm going to cut it off right here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of glue right there and tuck that in. I'm being very gentle to make sure I don't end up getting hot glue on me too badly. Tuck that in there and hold it until it sets. And we have a little bit of glue showing over here, so we're going to trim that off anyway. So now we're going to trim. Not very sharp scissors, unfortunately. And give that just a little bit more hot glue to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. Give it a blow so it'll not be too hot. Okay. And we are good. That is secure. Okay, let's move everything out of the way. Okay, so that is our second method of making a paracord bracelet.